Okay, so today we're going to solve an elapsed time word problem using two different methods. Okay, so first of all, what is elapsed time? Well, elapsed time is the amount of time that passes from one point to another. So, like how many hours, minutes, or seconds pass during a certain frame of time. For example, the elapsed time from 8 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. is 2.5 hours or 2 hours and 30 minutes. Looking at this, we know that we can write this two different ways. We can say it in fraction form, 2.5 hours, or we can do this, 2 hours and 30 minutes. Well, we know that fractions represent parts of wholes, so if 1/2 of an hour is 30 minutes, then we know that 1/2 of an hour is going to be 60 minutes. Okay? So looking at this, we see that 60 seconds equal 1 minute. So after every 60 seconds passes, we get 1 more minute, okay? And for every 60 minutes, we get 1 hour. Okay, so here's this chart. 1 hour, if it's the whole, and we have 30 minutes, then we can see that half of 1 hour would be 30 minutes, so then 1/2 would be 60 minutes, okay? So you can write it out in hours and minutes format, or you can write it out in fraction format, or you can write it out like 11:30 a.m. or 11:30 p.m., depending on whether it's morning time or afternoon time, okay? So this is one important thing to remember when you're dealing with time. Every time your hour hand passes 12, then you're either going from AM to PM or PM to AM. Every time your hour hand changes or passes by the 12, you're going to be switching AM or PM, okay? So also notice that we have 1 through 12 on the clock, and then after 12, we don't have a 13 or 14, we go back to 1, okay? So after 12 on the hour hand, we go back to 1, okay? Now also remember that we said 60 minutes equal 1 hour, okay? So when our minute hand is going around the clock, it has to go around 60 minutes before it can switch to another hour, okay? So I wrote this chart out here. Every dash on the clock is 5 minutes, so that we can get to 60 minutes at the 12, okay? So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, okay? So we have 60 minutes in 1 hour, and then we have 12 hours on the clock, and there's 24 hours in a day, so 12 of those hours are going to be AM, 12 hours are going to be PM, okay? Because we said every 12 hours we switch. Alright, so let's go ahead and look at our word problem. Our word problem says, a soccer game starts at 11:15 a.m. and goes for 4 hours and 30 minutes. What time will the game end? Well, we're going to go ahead and take out information from this word problem and write it down so we know what we're looking at and dealing with, okay? So the game starts at 11:15 a.m. So our start time is 11:15 a.m. It doesn't tell us what time the game ends, but it's asking us to find what time will the game end. So we're going to put a question mark there because we don't know it yet, okay? And we know that our elapsed time, or the time that has passed from the time the game started till the game ended, is 4 hours and 30 minutes, okay? Because when we go back into our word problem and check, it says the game goes for 4 hours and 30 minutes, okay? So that's our elapsed time. So we're going to be using the Make 60 approach and the timeline approach to find what time the game will end, okay? So let's go ahead and look at our first approach, Make 60. Okay, so for the Make 60 approach, every 60 minutes we create another hour. So it's basically what we're going to be thinking about while we use this approach. We're going to be using a chart here. We have 2 columns, one for the hours, one for the minutes, and then we also have this third column right here that's going to help us keep track of what time we're at, okay, once we add time to it. So we know that our starting time for this problem is 11:15 a.m., okay? So then on our hours we put 11, and our minutes we put 15, and we said that's our start time. But what I didn't put, and what you need to make sure that you're putting when you're dealing with time, is whether it's AM or PM, okay? the word problem said the game starts at 11:15 a.m., so I'm going to write that down to remind myself. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the minutes right now. We have hours and minutes, so we have 30 minutes that we need to add to this. Okay, so we're dealing with minutes, so we're going to put 30 in the minutes column. So 30 plus 15 gives us 45. Okay, we haven't reached the 60 yet, which would make it another hour, so we're still at 11, and we haven't passed the 12 yet, so we're still at AM. So 11:45 AM is where we're at now. Okay, 11:45 AM. So now, let's go 1 hour, because now we did our 30 minutes, and now we need to go 4 hours, so let's go 1 hour. Okay, so we're going to add 1 hour and 0 minutes. Okay, so here we're going to start at 11:45 now. 11:45 plus 1 hour gives us 11 plus 1 is 12. So now we are at 12:45. Oh, wait a second. We passed by the 12 since we started at AM and we passed by the 12. We're going to PM. Very important to pay attention to whether you're using AM or PM, okay? We passed the 12, so then we switched to PM, okay? So now we've gone 1 hour and 30 minutes. So now we have 3 more hours to go, okay? So let's go ahead and add our 3 hours, no minutes. So, and remember, after 12, we don't go 13, 14, 15, because we start over at 1 for our hours. So 12, 1, 2, 3. So now we're at 3. We didn't add any minutes, so 45 PM. Awesome. So we used our Make 60 approach on our chart here to add hours and minutes to our start time. We switched from AM to PM, and we found that if the game starts at 11:15 AM and it goes for 4 hours and 30 minutes, that we will see that the game ends at 3:45 PM. Great. So now we're going to take a look at our timeline approach and see if we can get to the same answer. Okay. The timeline approach is basically just one way to look at time using a timeline. Okay. So we're going to view the info on a timeline. So I've already pre-made this timeline here, okay, with our times on it, and I put them in hour increments, okay? So let's take a look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Every 4 lines, we get to another hour. So if there's 60 minutes in 1 hour, and we have 4 lines, I went ahead and did 60 divided by 4 to see how many minutes each line would be worth, and I found that it's 15. So every line is going to be 15 minutes, okay? So 15, 30, 45, 12, okay? 12:15, 12:30, 12:45, 1, because I'm adding 15 minutes each time. And once I go from 45 and then I add 15 more, it gets me to 60, and every 60 minutes we go to another hour, okay? So let's go ahead and look at this again. So we start at 11:15 AM. So let's go ahead and put a dot there where we're starting at. So let's look at our chart. 11, and every line is 15 minutes. So we're going to go to this first line, 11:15. Alright, that's our starting time. So then we have 4 hours and 30 minutes to jump. So if we add an hour, to 11:15, if we add an hour to anything, then it's going to be the same time, but just changing the hour hands, okay? So if we added an hour to 11:15, then it would be 12:15. If we added 2 hours to 11:15, it would be 12:01. So let's go ahead and jump a couple of hours here. We have 4 hours to jump, okay? So if we're at the first line after 11, then if we add an hour, we would be at the first line after the 12, okay? So this is 1 hour. Let's check. 15, 30, 45. Oh no, this is where we started, I'm sorry. We started right here, so we'll count the lines after that. 15, 30, 45, 60. 60 minutes gives us an hour. Okay, now let's check for our next hour, okay? So 15, 30, 45, 60. So this is where hour 2 will go. 2 hours. Okay. So from the starting point to here, we have 2 hours. Okay, so this is 1 hour. This is 1 hour. This is 1 hour. This is 1 hour. And this is 2 hours, okay, the whole way. So let's go another hour, because we're only at 2 here, okay? So 15, 30, 45, 60. There's another hour, 1 more hour. And that's 1, 2, 3 hours. And we have 1 more hour to go, okay? So 15, 30, 45, 60. Gives us 1 hour. So let's see how many hours we've gone. 1, 2, 3, 4 hours. And our elapsed time said 4 hours and 30 minutes. Okay, so we've already done our 4 hours. So we're done with that. So now we have 30 minutes to jump. So let's go back to our timeline. And since every line is 15 minutes, then we need to jump 2 lines to get our 30 minutes. Okay, so we're starting here. So 15:30. Okay, so 2 lines. 2 times 15 is 30. So this gave us our 30 minutes. So now let's count to see how much we've jumped. 1, 2, 3, 4 hours and 30 minutes we've jumped. 4 hours and 30 minutes. That's our elapsed time. Okay, so now we just need to check where we landed, and then that will tell us what time the game will end. Because we started our timeline at 11:15 a.m. Okay, 11:15 a.m. And notice that once I put the 12 and the 1, 2, 3, notice every number starting from the 12, they have PM on them, because once we get to 12, it switches one way or the other. And since we started at AM, we went to PM. Okay, so now looking at our timeline, and every line is 15 minutes, we can see 3:15, 3:30, 3:45. Okay, that's where our dot ended, is right here. So it's before 4 o'clock, it's after 3 p.m., and we went 15, 30, 45, so we know that it is 3:45 p.m. Is that what we got on our other one? Let's check. Yep. For our Make 60 approach on our chart, we found 3:45 p.m. to be the ending time. And when we used our timeline approach, we found that 3:45 p.m. was the ending time. So as you can see, you can use many different methods to get to the same result, okay? Just depending on what works best for you, what you understand best. But either way, you'll get to the same answer. So there you go.